Today is October the 9th, and this is part 47 of our study of the ministry of Jesus. Well, we've come now to the time for the Transfiguration. Jesus took Peter, James, and John up into a high mountain. Now, what mountain that was, we don't know. There's a lot of speculation. And there's a couple of mountains it could have been, but we just don't know. And really, it doesn't matter. It was a high mountain. And he took Peter, James, and John. These have become known as the inner circle of Jesus. Remember that when Jesus went to raise the dead girl, he only allowed Peter, James, and John to go with him. And now going up on the Mount of Transfiguration, he allows only Peter, James, and John to go with him. And then in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's going to separate Peter, James, and John to go with him further into the garden to pray. So for some reason, these three were special to him. There was Peter, and you know about Peter, and he's always has to say something. He becomes kind of the leader of the apostles because it's him that does the preaching on the day of Pentecost. And then there's John. John, of course, an apostle, wrote the book of Revelation and the Gospel of John. He lived the longest of any of the apostles. But then his brother James, older brother we assume, was the first of the apostles to die. He was killed by Herod Antipas with a sword. And Herod took Peter and intended to kill him also. But God delivered Peter, but he didn't deliver James. That doesn't seem fair. Well, God's business sometimes doesn't seem to us to be fair, but God's business, not ours. It seems that James just got started in his role as an apostle after the resurrection, and then he was killed. He was gone. That just tells me that the job that Jesus had for him to do was completed and over with, and he went home. It's not up to us to question God. God has a job for us to do, and when we've got it completed, he takes us home. We don't understand why. We don't have to understand why. Okay, so Jesus takes these three, Peter, James, and John, up into a high mountain. And while they're there, Jesus is transformed before them. His face becomes shining like the sun, and his clothes were bright and shining. And there also appeared with him two people, Moses and Elijah, talking to Jesus. What were they talking about? It tells us they were talking about Jesus' upcoming death. So they were discussing what was about to happen to Jesus. Now it's interesting, Moses and Elijah. You know that Elijah did not die. He was caught up into heaven in a fiery chariot. So he didn't die. His body went to heaven with him. But there's Moses. He died. He died on top of Mountain Nebo. God did not allow him to go into the promised land, but took him on top of Mountain Nebo and showed him the promised land, but he couldn't go in. And so he died there, and his body was there. Now, in the book of Jude, it tells us that the archangel Michael was contending with the devil over the body of Moses. What's that all about? Well, my opinion is that for this occurrence right here, God needed Moses' body for this appearance with Moses and Elijah and Jesus. So he told Michael, go get the body of Moses. We need it. So the archangel Michael went down to get it, and Satan came and said, what are you doing? He said, I came after the body of Moses, and he said, you can't have it. It's not time yet. And so he had to contend with the devil over the body of Moses so he could take it back to heaven so he needed to use it at this occasion on the Mount of Transfiguration. Well, I see our time has come and gone already this morning. We'll have to finish up on the Mount of Transfiguration tomorrow. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic day today, and God bless you.